Every time your diet failed, you blamed yourself. You lacked discipline. You lacked consistency. You gave up again. At least, that's what you were told. But what if the problem was never just you? What if you've been living inside a system designed to make overeating automatic? Because while obesity keeps rising across most of the world, Japan somehow stayed different. One of the longest lifespans on Earth. One of the lowest obesity rates on the planet. And the strangest part? Japanese people aren't obsessively dieting. Japan doesn't fight human behavior. It quietly designs around it. The food, the cities, the portions, the habits, the culture. Everything pushes people slightly toward balance instead of excess. And once you see how that system works, you start realizing why so many people keep losing this fight without ever understanding why. Most people hear about Japan's low obesity rate and immediately assume one thing: genetics. Maybe Japanese people are simply built differently. Maybe their metabolism is faster. Maybe they just got lucky. But research tells a different story. When Japanese people move to Western countries and adopt Western lifestyles, many gain weight just like everyone else. Which means the real difference isn't biology, it's environment. And this is where Japan becomes fascinating. Because unlike many countries that constantly tell people to try harder, Japan quietly removes many of the conditions that cause overeating in the first place. In other words, Japan never made health a goal, it made it the default. And once you understand that idea, every part of Japanese life starts looking different. Imagine walking into a restaurant, hungry. Your food arrives, the plate is enormous. Without realizing it, your brain instantly treats that portion as normal. And that's dangerous, because humans don't just eat with their stomachs. We eat with our eyes. Behavioral researchers discovered something fascinating. The larger the plate, the more food people unconsciously consume. Not because they're starving, because perception changes appetite. And in Japan, meals often look completely different. Instead of one giant overloaded plate, you'll usually see several small bowls. Tiny portions, carefully separated dishes. To many tourists, it almost feels too small. But that smallness is exactly the point. Because Japanese culture quietly reduces overeating before it even begins. And that idea becomes even more powerful when you understand one ancient philosophy that still shapes the country today. In Okinawa, one of the longest living regions on Earth, people have followed a phrase for generations: Hara Hachi Bu, eat until you are 80% full. Now at first, that sounds almost ridiculously simple. But biologically, it's brilliant, because your stomach and brain are slightly out of sync. There's a delay, roughly 15 to 20 minutes, between eating enough food and actually feeling full. And during that delay, most people keep eating. They finish everything. Grab dessert, go back for more. By the time the brain catches up, overeating has already happened. Japan's solution? Stop before fullness arrives, not after. And over time, something incredible happens. Your body adapts. 80% starts feeling normal. This is why many Japanese people aren't constantly battling food the same way other cultures are. Their baseline itself changes. No crash diets, no obsession, no extreme restrictions. Just one quiet habit repeated consistently for years. But here's the uncomfortable part. Modern food culture often trains people to do the exact opposite. Look around modern life for a second. Supersized drinks, unlimited refills, family meals designed for one person, advertisements everywhere, processed food engineered to be addictive. Even eating itself has changed. People eat while driving, while scrolling, while watching videos, while working. Meals are no longer experiences. They're distractions. And the faster life becomes, the easier it is to override the body's natural signals. The average fast food meal in some countries contains more calories than an entire traditional Japanese dinner. Not because people are weak, because the environment applies constant psychological pressure. And this is what most diet advice completely ignores. Willpower is unreliable. Environment is constant. But food is only half the story. The other half is movement. And Japan approaches movement very differently from most modern countries. In many places today, exercise has become something separate from life. You sit in the car, sit at work, sit at home, then maybe force yourself to exercise afterward if you still have energy left. Movement becomes optional. But Japanese cities quietly remove that option. Train stations require walking, neighborhoods are compact, cycling is common, public transportation naturally builds movement into everyday life. And individually, these actions seem small. A few stairs, 10 extra minutes walking, standing during a train ride. but repeated every single day for decades, that becomes enormous. Thousands of extra calories burned without consciously working out. This is passive fitness, movement woven directly into normal life itself. And what's interesting is, this same philosophy appears everywhere in Japanese culture, not just in movement, even in the psychology of eating itself. In Japan, eating is often treated with attention. Presentation matters, balance matters. Meals are designed to be experienced slowly, and that changes behavior more than most people realize. Because when people rush meals, scrolling on phones, distracted, stressed, the brain struggles to properly register satisfaction, which means cravings continue even after enough food has already been consumed. But slowing down changes the entire neurological experience of eating. Digestion improves. Awareness improves. Satiety signals become clearer, and maybe that's why Japanese meals often feel calmer, less rushed, less chaotic, less excessive. Meanwhile, modern eating culture often rewards speed, fast food, fast delivery, fast consumption, everything optimized for convenience. But human biology never evolved for this pace. And maybe the reason these behaviors feel so natural in Japan is because they begin early. In many countries, junk food becomes part of childhood itself. Sugary drinks, oversized snacks, fast food as reward. Children grow up surrounded by excess before they're even old enough to understand nutrition. But Japan normalizes something different. Balanced school lunches, controlled portions, nutrition education, walking to school, more structure around food from an early age. And what children repeatedly experience becomes their definition of normal as adults. That's the real power of culture. It shapes behavior quietly, before conscious choice even enters the picture. But no system is perfect. And this is where the story becomes more complicated. Japan's system produces impressive health outcomes, but it also creates pressure. There's stronger social expectation around appearance, mandatory workplace health checks, greater stigma around visible weight gain. And that pressure can become unhealthy too. Eating disorders exist in Japan. Body image anxiety exists too. So the goal is not to romanticize an entire culture. The goal is to understand one important truth. Human behavior changes depending on the environment surrounding it. And Japan may be one of the clearest examples of that on Earth. So what's the actual reason Japanese people rarely become obese? It's not one magical food, not one secret exercise routine, not superhuman discipline. It's thousands of invisible decisions happening automatically every single day. Smaller portions, more walking, slower meals, less processed food, less sugar, less constant temptation. Most diets fail because they fight human behavior directly. Japan quietly designs around it instead, and that changes everything. This video was never really about Japan. It was about your environment, the habits around you, the speed of your life, the food your culture normalizes, the systems shaping your behavior every single day without you even noticing. Because your body is not only shaped by discipline, it's shaped by what your environment makes easy. So, before blaming yourself again, look carefully at the systems surrounding your daily life. Maybe you were never simply lazy. Maybe you've been living inside a world designed for overconsumption from the very beginning. And maybe real change doesn't start with motivation. Maybe it starts with redesigning your environment one small habit at a time, one slower meal, one smaller plate, one walk instead of one ride. Because discipline is rarely built in dramatic moments. It's built quietly, every single day. If you enjoy videos that uncover the hidden psychology behind the modern world, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.